Hello and welcome to our We Need a Village Again, We're Better Together, WNAVA Black History Program. We're presenting the 2024, the Imago Day Black History Program. We are honoring Black legends, commemorating contemporary leaders, and spotlighting history makers that are emerging. We're so thankful to have you join us again. And if you're with us for the first time, you're in for a special treat. This is our special edition, the Ghana Virtual Tour. I have with me a young man by the name of Israel that I met when I was traveling to Ghana a year ago. And it's one of 5 African countries that I had an opportunity to visit. However, it was my trip to Ghana that just did something that stirred my heart so about the Black culture, the African culture, and the African way of life. And I want you to know it's much more than what we see when the advertisements scroll the screen about donations. There is a dignity to the African people's life, and there is a unity to the culture of Africans. And so I've asked Israel to be a part of our special edition presentation. Israel was broadcasting from Ghana, Africa, Accra, and he is a tour guide specialist at the W.E.B. DuBois Center. Israel, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me here. I'm so happy and glad to be part of the this amazing program, which is the Black History Program. Thank you so much for having me once again. And I'm a tour guide at the W.E.B. Du Bois Center, where we tell people about his life, his impact, and his contribution to the Black community, the Black Americans. And we also show you where he is buried, his home, and his last words to the world. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Well, let's get started. This presentation is going to cover, let me do what we're going to cover, then we'll come back and let you begin to share and give us all the rich
Okay.
insight. So we're going to talk about Ghana overall, the flag, both the Ghana flag and the Pan-African flag. We're going to highlight a couple of the significant symbols that are noted in Africa and in particularly in the Ghana areas where I saw them, and also the dignity of the life of an African, the history of the Ashanti tribe, the Black Star Square, formerly the Independence Square in Accra, Ghana. And then we're going to conclude the second part of this presentation with you showing us and walking us through the life of the iconic civil rights leader, W.E.B. Du Bois. So why don't we go back to the top, and why don't you begin to tell us about the Ghana, just about Ghana overall, perhaps a little bit about its history, then about the Ghana flag, the Pan-African flag, and then we'll pick up from there.
Okay. So thank you so much. So Ghana is one of the African countries to first gain independence in 1957 by our very own leader, Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. The name Osajifo means the Redeemer, my Redeemer. That's the meaning of the Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. So he gained independence from the Ghana in 1957. Before that, Ghana was a country which was called the Gold Coast, and it was colonized by the British. And the colonization by the British ended in the year 1957 on the 6th of March. So, same year, that was when the flag also was designed. It was designed by a lady called Theodosia Oko. So she actually coming about the Ghana flag was derived from the Pan-African flag. The Pan-African flag, when I say Pan-African means uniting African people, bringing African people together. That's the meaning of the Pan-African, like Pan-African culture or Pan-Africanism. So the Pan-African flag, which is the red, black, and green, was a flag which was designed by a civil rights leader called Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey designed this flag in 1920, talking about the liberation and freedom of the African people. So the red talks about the blood which was shed for our freedom, the black is the people of Africa, and the green is the vegetation and wealth of Africa. This is the Pan-African flag I'm talking about.
Okay.
So the Pan-African flag, so Looking at the Pan-African flag, most African countries derive their national flags from the Pan-African flag. Ghana, we have all the colors of the Pan-African flag with the exception of the yellow. So the yellow inside talks about the riches and the wealth of the African of the Ghana of the country Ghana. The wealth, that's the wealth. The yellow talks about the wealth of Ghana because Ghana is known for its gold, its riches in gold. The reason for our gold, that's why we had all these colonizing countries like the Portuguese, like the Dutch, like the British coming here just because of our gold.
So,
That's the
so
reason.
let me ask you this, Israel. So, because Ghana is so rich in mineral, the gold in particularly, it became a hot spot, if you would, for other countries to come in,
Yes,
European countries to come in and take from that nation
yes,
its precious gold and minerals. Is that right?
yes, 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 ma'am.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, so that was the reason for all these African countries to set in to mine our gold and take everything. So that represents the wealth. So we have the red talking about the blood. The some of the Ghanaians fought for independence. So during the Second World War, the British had to send some Ghanaian soldiers, some Ghanaian citizens to go fight for this world war. That's why, so this blood actually represents the wars all these people fought. Anybody who died during the time of independence, before independence, the struggle for independence is represented by the blood, the red. The yellow is our blood. The yellow is the minerals, not just gold. That's manganese, that's lithium, that's green. And the green talks about the vegetation of Ghana. Ghana is a land of vegetation, specifically like Africa is a land of land. We have so much land. Like Ghana, we have so much land. We have so much tropical forest. When you go to the eastern region, when you go to the central region, the western region, the Ashanti region, forest where it has large sum of Amazon. We have so much animals and domestic animals. So that is what we are known for. The black star inside, the black star inside represents the people, not just the people of Ghana, but the people of Africa. Every black man and black woman out there. That's what the black star is actually representing. Because the black star is a symbol which our very own Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, because of his political ambitions and his political knowledge before he came to Ghana, he was inspired by Marcus Garvey because Marcus Garvey, he created the Black Star Line to unite and bring every black man and black woman out there to Africa to come back home. That was the meaning of the his ideology about the Black Star. So he took that symbol, placed it in our flag because, in as much as Ghana was the first country, African country to gain independence in Africa, Ghana became the center and the gateway to all African people, all African, all black man and black woman you see everywhere in the world because Ghana was the first to open up the door for all African countries to actually follow. Because in as much as we gained independence in 1957, 1956, 1958, 1959, 1960, moving towards upwards, that's when all these African countries begin to gain their independence. So Ghana is the gateway to all African people.
Oh,
Ghana is also a country which is the center of the world. Ghana, in here, you can find the Greenwich Meridian, which is about a mile in Tema. That's the center of the world. That's where you can find it. That's where the Greenwich Meridian passes. And at the center of the world, which is Ghana, Kwame Nkrumah built a hotel, and that hotel signifies that this is the center of the world, which can be found in Ghana.
awesome. That is incredible history. Well, you also have some symbols. Thank you for that. You also have some symbols that I was just admiring and intrigued by, and one is the Sankofa bird, and then one
Okay.
is the image of God, the supremacy of God. Would you talk about both the Sankofa bird and the image of the supremacy of God?
Okay, thank you so much.
Mhm.
So the Sankofa bird is a bird picking something from behind. So, back way in history during the time of slavery, okay? During the time of slavery, when our very own ancestors, when they were taken through the gates, the door of no return, their culture was taken away from them, their values was taken away from them, their skin, their minds, and everything that made most of the things that made them African was taken away from them, and it was dropped at the door of no return. So, in as much as when you go out of the door, you're not coming back, and when you go back, your everything is taken away from you. You are instilled with a whole different new culture because you are not more an African, but they put a different kind of person inside of you. So the whole bird is actually it's a national symbol telling everybody that it's now high time that we need to come back home because the doors has been open for everybody to come back home to pick up what we left behind. Every African, every black man and every black woman living outside the borders of Africa who hasn't yet come back home has something to come to pick it up to make them know who they are as African people, because that is what the bird is actually talking about, that there's a lot to learn, there's a lot to know, and there's a lot to find, which we have to pick up. That's why the bird is picking something from behind, because you need to go back and pick up what you left behind, as the word sacrifice comes from the Akan people of Ghana. It's saying here, it is the Akan term that literally means to go back and get it. Go back and pick it up. We are mandated. We are mandated to go back and pick it up. And it's one of the Edinkra symbols for Sankofa, depicting the mythical bird flying forward with the head turned backwards. So we need
Okay.
every African to come back home. Yeah.
That is awesome. Now you're getting excited. You're talking a little bit fast, so slow down so we can hear your dialect. You're
Okay.
doing good,
Okay.
but I can tell that you're passionate, and it is true, because when you go back, even if you don't know all of the history, my personal experience was I could feel that I was in a place that was familiar to me, that I had never been before, and I
Yep.
could feel that I was amongst my people in the sense of my culture.
Yep.
The wonderful thing about me being in Ghana was, as a Black woman that is an African American, I felt at home in
Yep.
Ghana. So
Yes.
thank you. Talk a little bit about the symbol that represents the supremacy of God, because
The
Ghana
supremacy.
is noted as a Christian nation. Share a little bit
Yep.
about that, and then we'll go on and talk about the Ashanti tribe.
Okay. So the Jinyame symbol means the Jinyame, or the Jinyame means only God. The Ji means only, Nyame means God. Nyame, we call Nyame in our dialect God, which is the supremacy of God also. So the full meaning of the symbol talks about nobody knows the beginning nor the end except God. Nobody knows the beginning. So you see on your left side, you see an arrow pointing downwards. On your right side, you see an arrow pointing upwards. So the upwards one talking about nobody knows the beginning. The down one talks about nobody knows the end except God. The God except God is what we see in the middle. Except God. That's the Jinyame, except God, the supremacy of God. Ghana is an African. Ghana is a country which we are mostly known by Christianity. Okay, because that was what was first introduced in here by these Europeans who colonized us. They brought us Christianity, so that's what we are known for. So we are known to be Christian people mostly in here. We are known to be Christian. So that is what the symbol actually talking about. That nobody knows the beginning nor the end except God. But some people just shorten it and say, except God, or the supremacy of God is all the same.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Now, the Ashanti tribe, which has a huge place in history, would you share a little bit about the Ashanti tribe? And we have some pictures that you provided that we'll just kind of
Yeah.
transition through as you talk. So tell us about the Ashanti tribe.
Okay. So the Ashanti tribe was a tribe which was first known in the Gold Coast. When I say Gold Coast, is the current Ghana we all know. It was a tribe that existed in the 17th century. It was well known in the 17th century by its gold mining, by its slave trade, its slave routes, its regalias, its tradition and culture. So during that time, when the existence of the Ashanti people, we also had the British. And looking at how the Ashanti people were growing in their numbers, growing in their army, growing in their riches, growing in their minerals, the British wanted the Ashanti people to submit to them, which they were, in so many times, they were willing not to comply to that. So before that, the Ashanti people didn't have a god until there came a chief priest called Okonfanochi, who was the chief priest and an advisor to the king Aden, who was Nana Prempe the first. So during the festival of Deba, he commanded a golden stool from the skies, and this golden stool landed on the chief's laps. The golden stool landing on the chief's lap signifies authority and power. So that's when their chief became a king of the land of the Ashanti people. So fast forward, their god, okay, their power and authority was derived from the golden stool. So when the British, during the time of the British in 1874, in 1874, a war broke out by the British because they wanted to, because of their resources and the Ashanti people trying to resist and not comply to their resources. By then, they were led by, there was a governor called Sir Garnet Worsley,
Mm-hmm.
who was mostly talking to these Ashanti people that you need to submit to us because we are much more powered and we are much more this and that. So we need to submit to us. And we're like, no, we are African people. We love our people. We believe in our people. And there's no way we are sharing our wealth with you because you came here to steal from us and we've been just watching you and you are not welcome into our territory. So that alone just broke out a war in 1874, and that war was called Sagranti. You know, in those times, there wasn't the language, there was a vast language barrier. Okay, so for them to pronounce the name Sir Garnet Wesley, they just say Sagranti. So that's the name of the war, which was Sagranti
Sagranti was the
War.
name of the war. And that
The
war was
war, yes.
between the Ashanti tribe and the British?
And the
The
British,
British.
yes,
Okay.
and the British,
Mm-hmm.
yes. That's the Sagranti War. So they happened to celebrate last 3 weeks. They celebrated the 150th anniversary of the Sagranti War, and it was a very beautiful culture display in Kumasi, Ashanti region. Yes, so that war broke out, and at the end the British were overpowered. They were much powerful because of their ammunitions. They had guns. They had powerful guns and stuff. And these Ashanti people, they didn't know about all these stuff. They were fighting with clubs. They were fighting with bow and arrow. They were fighting with their fists and hands because the African culture, the African blood, the African skin doesn't crack. It's not scared about death because we know we are not just embracing today, but we are embracing death for a generation. So that when the war broke out, they overpowered the Ashanti people, and they thought that they have won the Ashanti people. But to win the Ashanti people, you have to get hold of the golden stool because the golden stool determines the power of the Ashanti people.
Okay.
So there were so many soldiers were captured, so many regalias were stolen, so many gold were stolen. The slave routes began to flow for the British people, and they gained access to the Ashanti kingdom. So due to that, the Ashanti people were so wise to the sense that they hid the golden stool, and it was highly guarded. It was highly, highly, highly guarded because they were protecting this stool with their whole life. Yeah, so that's the picture of the stool.
Mm-hmm.
They protect the stool with their whole life. Stool talks about the people. If this stool goes down, the Ashanti kingdom goes down. When this stool goes down, the people of Ashanti are powerless. They have nothing to talk about in terms of power. So they were guarding this stool with their whole life. So
Wow.
during those time coming up from 1874 to 1900s, there was a queen mother called Nanaya Asantua. She was the queen mother of Ejoso. Ejoso is one of the towns in Kumasi in the Ashanti Kingdom. She was a woman warrior. She was a war leader and a queen mother. So that's a picture of her. She was a very radical woman who doesn't accept nonsense. So during
Say
that
that
time,
again. She was a queen mother that did not accept nonsense.
yeah, didn't accept nonsense. Yeah, she was a vibrant lady. Yeah, she was a vibrant lady who she's very known and loved by the people of Ghana and the Ashanti people. So the British, in as much as these governors were trying to take over Ashanti, take over the Ashanti land and everything, they kept changing their governors. They kept changing and changing them. So it got to a point the next governor in line was called Sir Frederick Sir Frederick Hudson. No, this is the king, Sir Frederick Hudson.
Okay.
Yes, Sir Frederick Hudson. So Sir Frederick Hudson was the governor of the British, and he sent a letter to the king and the queen mother that, okay, we've been able to take so much gold, we've been able to acquire so much slaves, we've been able to take so much resources from the Ashanti people. Now it's high time you people submit fully to us, the British, by giving out the gold, the golden stool. That was his request by then.
Oh, so
He was,
he was trying to subdue the Ashanti people, and he
yes,
knew the power to them of the golden stool. So he wanted to take the stool so that the British could have the overarching power to overthrow the Ashanti tribe.
exactly,
Okay.
exactly. So he sent a treaty saying that we've been able to take everything, but to take a leadership of somebody, a country, you need to lower down their flag. So with this, it wasn't a flag, but it was a golden stool.
Hmm.
So when it said it to them, they were like, no, we would never give in our golden stool. The golden stool is our God. We protect it with our lives. Many have died because of God's golden stool, and we always pay homage to these people. So we are not giving in. So when he heard that, he was like, okay, we know we have much power. We have the ammunitions you don't have. You just fight with clubs, bow and arrow, and your fist. So he sent thousands, tens of thousands of soldiers to go to the Ashanti land, and it broke a very big war. Very, very, very big war. And it was led by this woman, Inanaya, who led the war to fight
Now,
against the
was that the picture? Was that the picture of the mother? Was that the
no, the
picture?
picture was that is Yasantua in
Okay,
her war suit.
right.
Yes, that's Yasantua in her war suit, in her. Yes, so she was. Yes, so she was the war leader who actually led the war forward and fought this battle. So they didn't win. The Ashanti people couldn't win the war, but they were so smart. The people were so smart because black is smart. So what they did was, because that almost 2,000 plus people had to die. The British also lost about 1,000 people during that time of war. So they went, due to the fact that they were losing. Yasantua came to a conclusion and said that so many have sacrificed who were not leaders of the tribe. So many people sacrificed. So for them to take the golden stool, Nana Yasantua, together with the chief, who is the Nanajima Premper the first, the king, we will, and other soldiers and the rest of the soldiers, we will give ourselves into you, the British, as slaves for to protect the golden stool.
Wow. So that was very, very significant to them because they realized
Yes.
they believed they would be powerless. So let's put up the picture with the king. Is this the king, the individual you're
Yes.
talking about? Okay.
Yes,
And
yes, yes. So this was
his
the king.
mhm.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So this was the one, together with Nanaya Santua, who gave themselves in to sacrifice their life, to give their life to the British for the golden stool. So that's a picture of the Nanajima Prempe the
Okay.
first. Yes, who gave in himself. So when they gave in themselves to the king, and the king took the rest of the soldiers who was in the war together with Anaya Santua, together with the king, and they were all sent to the Cape Coast Castle. So they were all sent to the Elmina Castle. So when they
Almino
all sent to the
Castle. Okay.
yes, that's when they were sent exile. So when they sent to the Elmina Castle, some of the soldiers served as slaves, and they moved them from the Elmina Castle to Seychelles. So that's when Nanaya Santua died together with Nana Jemai Prempe. So to date, Nana Yasantua is not known just in Ashanti, but is known the whole of Ghana. Because her name Nana is Queen Mother. Ya Ya is the African name of a Thursday born. Ya
Okay.
Nana Ya Asantua. Asantua means queen. Like Nana means queen. That Asantua means like that Sante is the how do you call it? The region, like
A region.
Asante,
Okay.
yes,
Hmm.
the regions, like she holds the region, she protects. She was the queen mother, so that's the Nanaya
Okay.
Asantewa. So till date, they have a statue of her, they have a museum, of her, teaching about her impact, teaching about her contribution, and how strong and mighty she was in the contribution of the African people. So she's known to be one of the African women warriors in the continent Africa.
Awesome. So it sounds like as Africans that we are fierce and determined
Exactly.
people, and that we have had great warriors defending our freedom as much as possible to try to keep our people free, Africans free. Nonetheless, the British were able to overtake them because they were well prepared with weapons, but
Yeah.
it's noble that the leaders would say we'll give our lives in place of, because we don't want you to overtake our entire nation. Is that right?
Exactly.
Oh, that is
Exactly.
noble. Thank you. Well, let's move on to the Black Star Square, which was formerly named the Independence Square. And we'll wrap up here by you telling us a little bit about the history of the Black Star Square.
Okay. So the Black Star Square, as we see in the picture, is a monument Kwame Nkrumah built when he gained independence for Ghana in 1957, where he pronounced that freedom and justice. So this square right there is what signifies the Ghana being a gateway to African people. So you see is a walk through which you can walk to the other side and come to the other side. The doors have been open and everybody can come back home. On top of it is the Black Star. The Black Star is representing all African people in the diaspora, in Africa, in Ghana, every black man and woman, to be precise, every black man and woman that we are known by the Black Star. And the Black Star talk about oneness. It talk about unity, that we are all one people regardless of where we find ourselves. That is why it's on top. But the gate in there is telling us that is the gateway to all African people. Is we are mandated to come back home, to walk throughout, to be able to walk back home and pick up what we left behind. So that's the little bit history about the Black Star Square.
Okay.
And on the side of it we have the Independence Square. So the Independence Square, the that's there is a very very large ceremonial grounds which Kwame Nkrumah built. And this place was even graced by the late Queen Elizabeth, the Queen of the land of England. She graced this land. She first visits to her visit was kind of like a handing over from the British to her own people, to ourselves. That's Kwame Nkrumah. When she visited, it was like handing over that, okay, we give you back your culture, we give you back your country, so you can take it back. So they
So
visited.
Queen,
So it's a ceremonial grounds.
let me restate that. So the Queen of England, Queen Elizabeth, visited Ghana, and she symbolized we are releasing you from the British control and colonization.
Exactly.
Wow. And
Exactly.
so
Exactly.
the Black Star Square and the arena there is representation of all Black people being able to come back home. Ghana is the gateway to Africa, and we left, but we can return. And this is where they do big celebrations and all kinds of events. I think, tell us how, I think when I was there, I think they said that ground will hold 30,000 people, or it was a massive amount of people that that could be held, event that could be held in that particular arena. Is that right?
Yeah. And that is where we always hold our honor, our independence. Every seat of March, that is where we hold our independence, reincarnate, and we honor all lost soldiers and our very own Kwame Nkrumah. So every Independence Day on the 6th of March, we hold a very large celebration out there where it's open to everybody to come and help us and join us, enjoy and celebrate our independence.
You know, when I was there, I heard a lot about your president. I guess he was the first president of the independence of Ghana, and he's obviously very beloved there. So talk just a little bit about him, and we're going to wrap it up there.
Ghana's president, the first president. Okay, so the first president, that was Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. He was born in 1901. That was when he was born, and he was a very leader with so much ambition on fighting and creating the United Nations of Africa. Yes, he was a leader who actually was a part of the leaders who created the United States of Africa. What he did was so profound that the reason why he's known all over the world was that whatever that he was doing for himself, what he was doing was not for himself, but for a generation. Can you imagine this man up to date doesn't have a property to boast about? No. There's no property, or there's no, let's say, a house, or there's nothing that you could tell that, oh, Kwame Nkrumah owned this to his name. Whatever assets that he had, whatever property that he had, he puts all these things in the name of Ghana so that people can have comfort, people can feel comfortable. He set himself aside for people to actually find comfort in whatever that he was doing. That is why he is mostly loved, not just in Ghana, but all over the world.
Awesome.
He led leaders. He contributed in so much. He helped countries like Mali, countries like Guinea to gain to fight for their independence. He helped so many countries because, he came up with his speech where he said, the independence of Ghana is meaningless until it is linked to the liberation of the African people.
So he had a heart for the entire continent of Africa.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Exactly. Because looking at that statement alone, he was trying to say that in as much as we've gained freedom for ourselves as African, as Ghana, if Togo, Congo, Benin, Mali, Nigeria, Cote d'Ivoire don't have their independence, then our independence is not worth it. It doesn't mean nothing. So he wasn't just fighting for Ghana, he was fighting for every black man and woman out there.
Awesome, because he had a heart for his country and his people.
Exactly.
And that's an extraordinary leader, where more than in the power of their name, they use their power and their strength and their influence for a generation and generations of people. And of course, with him, he was given to the African people and all of those that were that are black people, and one day could come back and help build the power and the strength of the continent of Africa. So that's great. That is a great history. Thank you for sharing that. Tell us this on our way as we sign off, your primary language. And so say good morning or good day, and then close with saying thank you in your native language.
All right. So in my dialect, which is Tree, that is that Akan. That Akan is the language which is mostly spoken in here, is known in here because we all speak Akan. Most people, like 70% of the Ghanaians, speak Akan. So we say good morning, we say Mache. Yes, so Mache. Yes, so thank you all. I'll say Meda Semunina. Medam Muninase, Medase,
I learned to say
Medase.
Madasi when I was there. I didn't go any further.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Madasi, it's been an honor, Israel, to have you. Thank you for all of your efforts to put together the photos and to prepare to be with us on our inaugural virtual Ghana African presentation. You're actually
Thank you so much.
broadcasting from the land of Ghana, Africa. We're so glad to have you come in as my brother, and because you're such a young man, I call you son, but that's with respect. And
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it's a
yeah,
pleasure to have
exactly.
you, and thank you for the passion that you have in serving the Ghanaians in Ghana, but also wanting to reach beyond the borders of Africa back into other lands, and in particularly into the United States of America to
Yeah,
welcome. So tell all of your African Americans, welcome. Why don't you come back home and see who you really are?
yeah, you're all welcome back home. You want me to say it in my dialect?
You can say it in your dialect, but then you have to say it in English so we'll know what you said.
Okay, okay. All right, okay. Me mamu nyinaa kwaba. Me mamu nyinaa kwaba. Me mamu nyinaa kwaba. Se mu nyinaa mumbre fie. Mumbre fie na mumbra mbegye ni na mumbe ka ye ho na yen yi ye ho aye na yen som na yen gye ni. All I'm trying to say is that you are all welcome home. You need to come back home. Don't be intimidated. Don't be afraid. So far as you get in touch with anybody, in either Pastor Glover to get in touch with me or my colleague, we will make Ghana and Africa be a better place for you to be. So you're all welcome home. The arms are wide open to invite and accommodate everybody that comes in here to have fun, to enjoy history, to enjoy pure and rich history. So you are all welcome. You need to come back home. There's a lot to learn and there's a lot to see. Thank you so much.
Thank
Medasi.
you, Madasi. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for the rich history and insight
Thank
that you shared. God bless you, and may
you. You're
God
welcome.
bless all of our African Americans and all of our African brothers and
Thank
sisters.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so honored and humbled to be here. Thank you so much. My name is Israel, and you are welcome to the house of Dr. DuBois. This is where he lived for just 2 years. He was invited here by the first president of Ghana, called Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, to come to Ghana to edit a book called the Encyclopedia Africana, Dictionary of African Biography. This is a book which talks about Black people, what they have, what they can do, and the resources available to them. So he was here in Ghana in the year 1961 at the age of 93, and he died at the age of 95 in the year 1963. You may also ask, who is Dr. DuBois? He's a Pan-African leader, a civil rights activist, a socialist, and also a writer. So you are all welcome to the house of Dr. DuBois. Where we find ourselves currently is the bedroom of Dr. DuBois. This is where he took his last breath on the 27th of August, 1963. These are his academic robes. So this is a robe he received from the University of Ghana, Legon, an honorary of letters. And also, this is also he was the first Black man to attain PhD at Harvard University in 1896 in history and in government. So in the year 1959, Dr. DuBois ended up in China, where he was honored on his 91st birthday in the same year, 1959. The reason why he went to China was because when he was in the States he was fighting against racism, fighting for equality. The United States government thought it twice he was a communist. So due to that, his visas and papers were seized for 6 to 7 years. And due to that, he thought he moved to a communist country where he'd be welcome. So he went to China in the year 1959 during the leadership of Chairman Mao Zedong, and that was in the year 1959. In that same year, on his 91st birthday, he was honored with some gifts. The first gift is this embroidery we see here. So this embroidery depicts the attributes of Dr. DuBois, saying that he is an old man by the white hair, a man of leadership by the staff, a man of peace by the deer, a man of charity by the seeds, and he is a man of wisdom by the two scrolls. Second gift also is these two scrolls we have here. These two scrolls are citations which are plotted in praising Dr. DuBois for who he is, his kind gesture, and his contribution towards the world at large. It has the translation saying, he's a credit to colored races, a shining example, winning universal admiration, committed toward peace, shining the east wing, and enjoying happy longevity. The third gift is this walking stick we see in this glass. This walking stick, which he used for 4 years from 1959 to 1963. And the last gift was that his birthday, anytime celebrated, was a holiday in China. So looking at how highly China is populated, and just because of one man, you have to close down your schools and shops, tells how valuable he was to the people of China. So the main reason why he came, as I said earlier, was to edit on the encyclopedia on all African countries in 10 to 20 volumes. But due to his age and the time frame, he just ended up with 8 countries in 3 volumes. The 8 countries consist of Ghana, Ethiopia, Sierra Leone, Zaire is now called Republic of Congo, South Africa, Lesotho, Botswana, and Swaziland. So these are the 8 countries he completed in the space of 2 years in 3 volumes and in his 90s. And this glass contains the encyclopedia, which is the 3 volumes, the red books we have here. That's the encyclopedia he edited on. All right, so come with me this way. So right here is also some letters and journals. Some he wrote in his own handwriting, some in French and some in English. He was a man who understood 6 good languages, which were French, Greek, Latin, German, Chinese, and English. He taught Greek and Latin in Howard University and Clark Atlantic University. We have here his closet, which is every woman's dream. I know every woman's dream is to have a closet, a walk-in closet. So this was DuBois's walk-in closet with the original tiles he used whilst he was in this house. Going this way. So we have here also a picture, the life of Dr. DuBois from when he was a child to his old age. So this is him when he was 4 years old. A picture of his arrival to Ghana with his second wife, Miss Shirley Graham DuBois. This is a picture of when he was celebrating his 95th birthday. That's what happened right here in this house. A picture of a ceremony which was held upon his arrival. That's Stokely Carmichael's, he was a Black Panther, Kwame Nkrumah, and the second wife of Dr. DuBois, Shirley Graham DuBois. There's a picture of Dr. DuBois when he was honored by the University of Ghana, Legon. And that's what we saw in the glass behind us. All right, so right here also is the restroom of Dr. DuBois. This is where they used to take their shower. So taking a look at the sunken bathtub, it tells how strong he was in his 90s. Going in and out of this bathtub tells how strong his knees was, because he went in and out of this bathtub for 2 good years, in addition to his wife. All right, so let's move to the next section. All right, so you are welcome to the office of the second wife, Miss Shirley Graham DuBois. This used to be her office. She was married to Dr. DuBois for 12 years. She lived up to the age of 80, died in the year 1977 out of breast cancer. She was a composer, a playwright, and a dramatist. So she became the first director to Ghana Broadcasting Corporation here in Ghana. So when she was here, when Dr. DuBois died in 1963, she lived up to the year she stayed up to the year 1966, where there was a coup d'etat in Ghana. So the place wasn't safe for her. She moved out of Ghana, went to countries like Egypt, she went to Cairo, she went to Germany, and later she moved to China because she was suffering from breast cancer. So her treatment in China wasn't successful, so she died in China. And on her sick bed, she requested that wherever the husband is buried, she wants to bury right next to the husband. So we had her body cremated in ashes, brought all the way from China, and she's on this compound. From previously, he was married to Nina Goma DuBois for 54 years, had 2 kids with her, a boy and a girl. The boy died 18 months after birth due to lack of medical care in the United States. The second was a girl called Yolanda. She died at the age of 60 years due to heart attack. These 2 boxes we see here are 2 of Dr. DuBois's suitcases used during his travels. The stuffs were transported by sea. That's why it has a sponge foam lining inside to prevent water from getting access to the stuffs. So his second wife, Nina, lived up to the age of 72. His first wife, Nina, lived out to the age of 72, died in the year 1950 out of stroke, and he married the second wife in 1951. So because this room is a woman's office, this room dedicated to every woman and every lady out there. So you all know how history always prevails. History always raises men in high esteem anytime it's talking about sacrifices, peace, unity, and so forth and so on. But sometimes when you look at the life of some African women warriors like Harriet Tubman, Winnie Mandela, Escravia Anastasia, Nzinga from Angola, Yasantua, many of them are Rose, you realize that these women stood first and played a very major role in the fight for freedom and peace of the African people. These women also brought out people out of slavery and brought peace to the African continent. We have here the first female African president. She's called Miss Sirleaf Ellen Johnson from Liberia. She's the first female to be crowned president in Ghana. She ruled Liberia she was the first first female African president to rule Liberia. She ruled Liberia for 12 good years, that from 2006 to 2018. All right, so let's move to the next room. Okay, so in here you are welcome to the office and library of Dr. DuBois. This is where he was used to come and read and write. When he came to Ghana, he came along with 1,500 books. And we have all 1,500 books right here in this room. These books were his internet. These books was what he based on to edit and write the encyclopedia I showed you in his bedroom. These books have been here for 61 good years, and they are still in shape. They are still good looking, and they are about to be digitalized by the foundation, the new foundation, which is the W.E.B. DuBois Foundation. So these are his books of interest that he based on to edit and write the encyclopedia. Every kind of book talking about Africa, talking about communism, Harvard, you can get everything in here. They've been here 61 good years. His total publications also summed up to 1,975. And out of that total, there's just a few of his books we have here. The red books up here, he titled In Battle for Peace. Was a book he wrote when he was 83 years old. They were books he gifted out to visitors anytime they paid him a visit. So you visit DuBois and don't go back the same, you definitely go back with a book. We have other collections here like the Philadelphia Negro, The Souls of Black Folk, Colors and Democracy, Worlds of Colors, The Black Reconstruction, The World in Africa, and many more in there. These are also books to also help the kids out there, to help them know they are freedom fighters and African leaders. So we also have some of the books here. So, because they are very old and fragile, so we don't really allow much touching because you can see they are actually decaying. Right here is also one of the furniture he used while he was in this house. So let's take a close look at this curtain. This curtain, you can then identify a web in here. You can identify a web in here, and the initials of Dr. DuBois is W.E.B. DuBois, which is a web. So we associate him to a spider and a web. And the spider web also talks about African people. In our next video, I'll tell you how the web is associated to Dr. DuBois and we as African people. All right, so let's tag along. All right, so in here is the dining area of the DuBois. This is where they used to dine as a family. Behind these walls was the kitchen. Food was always served through this hole right to this space. This is the original kitchen cabinets which they used, their dining area, living room. The doors were also original doors, and the reception used to be their porch. We have here some amazing African leaders. That's the first president of Ghana, Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, who first gained independence for Ghana in the year 1957. Right here is also Martin Luther King Jr., a freedom fighter. Patrice Emery Lumumba from Congo, first Prime Minister of Congo, who was assassinated at the age of 35 years. Jomo Kenyatta, first president of Kenya, he also gained their independence in 1963 after spending 8 to 9 years in prison, all because he was part of a rebellion in Kenya called the Mau Mau Rebellion. We have Booker T. Washington, Booker T. Washington, a civil rights activist. Malcolm X, a civil rights activist. He was killed, assassinated in 1965. Marcus Garvey, father of Pan-African movement. Marcus Garvey designed the Pan-African flag in 1920, talking about the liberation and freedom of the African people. So the colors of the Pan-African flag is red, black, and green, as we see right here. So there's the colors which represent the African people. So when you look at most of the national flag of some African continents were derived from the Pan-African flag, because it's either their colors are talking about culture, history, or resources. Ghana, we have all colors of the Pan-African flag with the exception of the yellow. The yellow talks about how rich Ghana is in minerals. Nigeria has its colors green and white. The green talks about its vegetation, and the white talks about how rich they are in oil. So lastly, we have here is Nelson Mandela from South Africa. He also had to spend 27 years in prison just to fight for us as African people. All right. So we have here some traditional stools. These are stools given to Dr. DuBois by some traditional leaders. They are stools which signify royalty, and they are used to install kings and queens in the southern part of Ghana. So together, the significance of the stool is based on the symbol we see beneath it. So there's a symbol there's a Sankofa symbol talking about everybody needs to come, going back to your roots. It's going to pick up what you left behind. As Africans living in the diaspora, everybody needs to come home to pick up what you left behind. This is also a stool of love. Stool of love. There's a stool of God is King. God is King. This is a stool talking about except God. Nobody knows the beginning or the end except God. This is a stool talking about authenticity. Authenticity. This is also the same as love. And right here, it's talking about strength. Talking about strength. All right. All right, so we are here. This is the family of Dr. DuBois. That's DuBois when he was a young boy. That's the picture of his wife, Nina Goma DuBois, the first wife. That's the second wife, Shirley Graham DuBois. This is the daughter of Dr. DuBois, Yolanda DuBois, who died at the age of 60 years due to heart attack. And this is also their first son. This is their first son who died, the one who died at the age of 18 months. So that's DuBois right here. That's the first wife also here. Hello, so right now we are on the compound of Dr. DuBois. This is the main building where we were. And now we are heading to his gravesite. So come join me. So in Ghana, we say Ago. Ago means you are welcome. So they reply by saying Medasi. Medasi is thank you. So this is the final resting place of Dr. DuBois. This is where he is currently buried when he died on the 27th of August, 1963. He was given a state burial by the Ghanaian government, and the pictures of the state burial is what we see on the walls. He died on the eve of the Civil Rights March on Washington, which was led by Martin Luther King Jr., a freedom they were all fighting for. He went to Fisk University for his undergrad. He went to Harvard for his PhD. He taught in Howard University. He taught in Clark Atlanta University. And the second wife, Shirley, went to Oberlin, Ohio, and Yale University. The second wife, Shirley, on her sick bed, requested that wherever the husband is buried, she wants to be buried right next to the husband. So we had a we had her body cremated in ashes, brought all the way from China, and she's in this box next to the husband. So in here is Miss Shirley Graham DuBois in her ashes. These two containers we have here are containers. This one contains the family of Dr. DuBois, saying that anytime he miss the family, the ashes of the family, he'll use the ashes to console himself. And also, this is the soil sample of his home site, Great Barrington, Massachusetts, that anytime he missed his family, he will use the soil sample to console himself. He was also part of the Greek fraternity, which was Alpha Phi Alpha. He crossed at Fisk. In this painting, we have Haile Selassie. Haile Selassie was the emperor for Ethiopia. And Ethiopia is one of the African countries to resist colonization, in addition to Liberia. Right here is also Kwame Nkrumah, the first president of Ghana. In this painting also, we have Dr. DuBois and Kwame Nkrumah. So right now, when you take a look at the ceiling, we have an inscription of a spider web. And the spider is an animal, which we all know is an animal not of stagnancy, but an animal of movement. It's an animal that actually is smart, intelligent, and wise. Spiders do not just build webs, but they build webs always connected to a stronger junction, so that no matter how bad the weather condition may be, the web will be able to stand the test of time. The reason why they build web is not because they build web for their own self, but they build web for the next generation of spiders coming, not to go through the stress of building another web, but to live on this web with every piece they can actually find. So when you compare this lifestyle of the web to that of Dr. DuBois and all these Pan-African leaders, you realize that in as much as they did so many travels, they actually left behind a web wherever they stepped their foot at. And these were webs of good impact, webs of good legacies, and webs that actually are impacting the generation that are currently living in this continent, Africa, and the world at large. Everywhere they went, they made sure they left behind a web. Dr. DuBois left so many webs in Ghana. Looking at his books, looking at his impact, his books are books of inspiration, books of wisdom, books of knowledge, and so forth and so on. So there's a saying that good name is always better than riches. It's always better to have a good name than to have the world to yourself. You can also have the world to yourself, but the question is, if you leave behind this world, how best can the world benefit you and your generation coming behind you? But if you leave behind a good name, this good name will benefit you, your generation to come, into eternity. So as we live, wherever we step our foot at, we should make sure that we leave behind a web, we leave behind a good legacy, and we leave behind a good footprints, so that the next generation coming after us will be able to benefit of whatever web that we left behind. Thank you so much. This brings us to the end of the tour of the W.E.B. DuBois. Thank you so much.